Censorship. This is John Hnatio reporting for the Objective News Network. Here at ONN, we are the victim of censorship by a public social media platform for reasons that we still do not understand. 2 weeks ago, we published a major news story relating to the origins of COVID-19. The piece was carefully researched and written based on the best information we could find, using a software tool that is, ironically, intended for the specific purpose of fighting fake news. The tool is called authentication. You can learn more about authentication at this URL. We started off by gathering a broad cross-section of information relating to the development of fast-mutating pathogens by the United States, the Russian Federation, and the People's Republic of China. All three of these countries are known to have in the past or currently have active biological weapons programs. You can see the 5-part series here at this URL. Our investigation came up with several startling results. The U.S. development of incurable SARS and measles pathogens was actually started between the Russian Federation and the Central Intelligence Agency via the United States Department of State's International Science and Technology Centers program and several Department of Energy national laboratories in the late 1990s. That's right, it was our own U.S. government that started the ball rolling on the development of incurable pathogens like COVID-19 with the Russians, in abject violation of U.S. law and treaties. But who and why anyone in their right minds would do something so dangerous and ill-witted is the question that must be answered. The clandestine CIA contracts were discovered by a government manager of biological and nuclear nonproliferation programs while he was working with the intelligence community. The manager immediately protested that what the U.S. intelligence community was doing violated the Biological Toxins Weapons Convention and the 1969 decree by the U.S. government to renounce the development of any work that could lead to the development of biological weapons. He resigned his position in protest, refusing to have anything to do with the development of incurable biological pathogens as morally reprehensible and against the laws of the United States of America. The government official was severely retaliated against. He received death threats to remain silent, and he was canceled, with his career and reputation destroyed by the government by refusing to go along. He was eventually forced to retire from government service. The breakout of the SARS-related COVID-19 pandemic in Wuhan, China, many years later, in December 2019, and the revelation that the United States was funding dual-use biological research via contractors working at the Wuhan Institute of Virology immediately raises red flags. Here's a piece at Echo Health Alliance denying any involvement in the genetic engineering of COVID-19. But the article fails to mention that any research involving pathogens like COVID-19 and the use of genetic engineering techniques are by definition capable of dual use, and that the company was in fact a potential enabler of the Chinese bioweapons development program. Was it possible that the U.S. intelligence community was doing the very same thing they did with the Russians years ago, but this time with communist with the Communist Chinese at the Wuhan Virology Institute through the means of a contractor engaged in dual-use biological research? We also considered the report prepared by the U.S. intelligence community at the direction of President Biden. The intelligence community was supposed to provide the White House with any and all information relating to the possibility that the People's Republic of China was involved in the development of COVID-19 as part of their biological weapons program. After looking at all the direct and circumstantial evidence we could find, we subjected the information to thorough analysis according to the rules of evidence and logic to conclude that the report provided by the U.S. intelligence community to the President contained key omissions, including the CIA's prior work with the Russian Federation to develop incurable SARS-like pathogens 20 years ago. Prior to airing the news story, we shared a pre-production draft for comment with Ambassador Richard Morningstar, who, in the late 1990s, was serving as President Clinton's advisor on matters relating to the former Soviet Union. Although he was contacted numerous times, he did not answer. It was Morningstar that fired the DOE management official who protested the violation of the BTWC in the late 1990s and allowed the CIA to move forward in the development of incurable pathogens that could be used as biological weapons. That DOE official, again, was me. When ONN attempted to publish our piece, it was immediately blocked by LinkedIn from being posted at their website, and we received an email telling us that we were intentionally spewing false information. Well, we spent the next 2 weeks trying to communicate with LinkedIn's safety assessment staff, the censors. We demanded to know exactly what the false information in our report was. They, of course, refused to answer. We asked for an apology, but LinkedIn said it was against their policy to apologize for interfering with the civil rights of their own customers. Finally, LinkedIn reposted the piece after we issued a public news story talking about it. You can see that story here. In that news piece, we compared what was happening right here at home in the United States to what the Communist Chinese regime was doing to their people, violating their ability to speak freely, especially about the failings of the communist government itself. And we asked the big question: what happened to our civil rights under the free speech provisions of Article 1 to our Constitution right here at home? Then we saw the recent news stories about Twitter and the FBI. It appears that LinkedIn is only the tip of a much larger iceberg lurking just below the surface of the water. The FBI, in league with the CIA, has been in constant communication with Twitter and their executives to read the communications of selected people, to obtain personal data, cancel altogether their accounts, and a host of other actions. But what is perhaps most offensive is the FBI, CIA, and Twitter practice shadow banning by selecting certain accounts and clandestinely keeping people away from them, preventing sharing, and a host of other means to cancel their visibility on Twitter. To add insult to injury, no one at Twitter had the integrity to say, "Hey, wait a minute, you're violating the Constitution." Even worse, FBI agents, all of whom give their solemn oaths to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States are in fact guilty of violating it. I too have been shadow banned in much the same way. A few years ago, I volunteered for a position in my local community to help write grants for my local sheriff's department. I took the necessary drug screening and submitted my fingerprints through what is called the National Criminal Justice Information System. The FBI came back with a negative report alleging that I was unfit to even volunteer for the position anywhere near a law enforcement agency. So despite holding the highest clearances imaginable in the U.S. government for nearly 30 years, and not being guilty of any crime whatsoever, I was canceled by the FBI. Now, it's important to remember, if it can happen to someone like me, it can happen to you too. Later, I received a letter from my local voting registration office to confirm that I had never been convicted of a crime, in order for them to let me vote in the next election. But suffice it to say, the World Wide Web is like a public market for ideas, debate, thought, facts, opinions, and beliefs. Free speech is a necessary precursor to making good and rational decisions. Good and rational decisions are essential to a democratic republic and for casting a good vote. Contrary to what the social media platforms may think, they do not own, nor do they have the right to muffle people and cancel them from view. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and our Constitution say different. Nor do the FBI and the CIA have, under our Constitution, the right to trample on the rights of Americans. It is what it is for January 12, 2023. This is John Hnatio reporting for the Objective News Network. Please subscribe and tell all of your friends and colleagues about us. We'll see you the next time.